Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 26th June 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. This article is taken from the Indian Express and it is titled First Ease of Living. So this is written by Arun Maira, a ex-Planning Commission chairman who talks about generally the system's way of thinking. So most of his articles talk about how we are living in an interconnected world and how policy should not be looked at in silos. In this article, he is trying to focus upon how the capitalism should work for human development rather than just money making. In this article, the author is discussing about the impact that capitalism, when applied to every domain, will have on the people who are involved in that particular ecosystem. Say for example, he takes the case of doctors and journalists. If capitalists are running either the media or hospitals, the entire focus will be on profit maximization. So in order to ensure that they get maximum returns, doctors are forced to compromise on their ethics and prescribe tests and medications that are actually not required for the patient in order to increase their revenue. Similarly, if journalists are functioning in a capitalistic framework, they have to compromise on their work ethos to ensure that it is portraying a better picture or a negative picture in a particular context to ensure that there is maximization of profit. So this is the reason why we see a trend of sensationalism across the media right now. So in this context and in this backdrop, we have to understand how countries are managing the present COVID-19 pandemic. So if you take a look at various Scandinavian countries, they are dealing better because of their huge social security nets, and even the poorest of the poor population there are getting the best kind of treatments. One might blame our population for the kind of services we get, but we also have to understand, with the same kind of population and if systems are set in place, we would actually be generating more amount of taxes than any other country in the world. So there is always a perception that our huge population is a burden rather than an advantage. Now that needs to change. Whenever we are talking about public services, we have to look at it through the lens of not charity but as a matter of right. So if you take a look at the present COVID-19 crisis, it is generally, whenever we're talking about hospitals, we only look at that particular aspect as a health issue. Now this health issue has a cascading effect on our economy. So this is a primary example as to why we have to respect this system's way of thinking. This system's way of thinking says that in an interconnected world, each and every aspect should be taken into consideration while designing a policy. So there are certain domains of work which should be left alone to the government alone, and they should function very efficiently. Amongst them, we have education, we have healthcare, and we have every other sector which involves not profit maximization but a minimum social security net even for the poorest of the poor sections. If we ensure this kind of a system in our country, it will reap benefits in the longer run, because we're talking about a phase where there is demographic dividend. This demographic dividend can be reaped only when we have healthy individuals who are educated and skilled to work for our economy. Having said that, skill is not the only thing that is required. We also need innovation. All this will be possible only when we have healthy individuals. Today we are living in a society where the healthcare sector is left to the mercy of private hospitals, and no private hospital would indulge in service activities because that would be a cost burden to them. It is here that the governments must step up their activities, but sadly the healthcare spending is still at a very minimal. Even this COVID crisis has not changed the way things are functioning. So this is a wake up call, and the author says that we have to focus on ease of living rather than ensuring that we just focus on economic growth numbers. If we actually translate those growth numbers into ease of living, that is a concept which involves inclusive growth, only then we can see some sort of development and hope for the future generations. That is the gist of this article. The next article for the day is taken from the Indian Express and it is titled "In Space, Growing Private Role." So for a long time there was a request from the private sector that India should deregulate the space sector to encourage private enterprise, and if we are to compete in the new space economy, this was a prerequisite. The reason for this was to ramp up both our capacity to use space and our capacity to deny our adversaries the reliable use of space. So other spacefaring nations were investing good money in both of these aspects, with the bulk of investment going into enhancing their capacity to use space. So what was striking about their approach compared to ours was the involvement of private sector in the commercial use of space. So it was considered one of the backdrop from which there was a rising demand for privatization of space. Also, if we take a look at our spacefaring tradition, the entire focus was upon the service of human development but not profit making. So it is in this context that we have to understand the power of private innovation in the space domain. So this not only limits the exploitation of space for economic development but also has a serious national security angle as well. It will help us build capacities in every possible manner. So one of the most basic way to secure our space capabilities is to distribute them across many different satellites and spacecrafts. So this was done so that the business continuity is unaffected even if an adversary manages to disable one of our satellites. The more critical the function, the more the diversity is required. So if you take the case of United States, it is highly vulnerable in space because it depends on thousands of its satellites. But it is also best equipped to deal with a potential attack on its space assets because it can find alternatives to switch to. Furthermore, with private US companies set to put thousands of satellites into orbit in the next few years, its security in space will definitely improve. If you take the case of even China also has been significantly increasing the number of its active space assets through massive public investment. So it is in this context there was also calls for privatization in India. So finally, as a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, the government has decided to open up the space sector in our country. Now let us look at how this is shaping up. So before this announcement, in the last year's budget, New Space India Limited was created. This is a central public sector enterprise of the Government of India under the administrative control of Department of Space. So this was headquartered in Bangalore. So the purpose of this was to act as a commercial arm of ISRO. The primary objective and primary responsibility bestowed upon this organization was to enable Indian industries to take up high technology space related activities and is also responsible for promotion and commercial exploitation of the products and services that are coming out of the space industry. So NSIL is incorporated to carry forward the industry production of space systems and ISRO's efforts in realizing the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle from industry, that is PSLV. So this differs from another commercial arm of ISRO called the Antrix. Antrix will handle ISRO's commercial deals for satellites and launch vehicles with foreign customers. NSIL, however, will deal with capacity building of local industry. Do not confuse both these aspects. Now, apart from all this, we had the announcement of a new organization called InSpace. So the creation of this body ensures that it will act as a single point interface between ISRO and everyone who wants to participate in space related activities or use India's space resources. So in a way we can say that this is going to act as a regulator moving forward for India's space sector. It will also handhold, promote and guide private industries in space activities through encouraging policies in a friendly regulatory environment. Also, Indian National Space Promotion Board was also established to strengthen the Department of Space and for the promotion of the private space entrepreneurs or non-governmental space entrepreneurs. Then one might get a doubt, what will be the role of ISRO? So we have to understand here the overall idea of ISRO is to concentrate just on essential activities of research and development. So the other commercial activities have often overburdened ISRO and deviated from its main task of R&D. So now it can peacefully focus on its essential activities like research and development, planetary exploration, strategic use of space, etc. So another feature of this entire InSpace model is the fact that it will be a demand driven model. What is this demand driven model? So till now, whatever activities that were taken up by our space sector is driven by supply rather than demand. So the focus will now be to create demand and make it very cost effective. In this way, we can expand the scope of our space based clients across the world and also harness the technologies across the world due to private participation. And lastly, one significant aspect of this is the fact that there is going to be a large scale employment in technology sector and it will also give the much needed security because of the diversification of assets. That is the gist of this article.